Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?
It's me, Egbert, once again. I'm the new owner of this station. I went out and hired the best talk radio consultant, Jeff Allen from News Talk STL, and told him to hire the worst talent he could find. Jeff did exactly as I told him. Ladies and gentlemen, here are Brad and John.
I wonder if Jeff Allen ever hears that.
You know what? I would imagine that somebody that you're not fond of has probably sent it to him and said, "Can you believe Brad is talking about you?" Speaking of St. Louis Public Radio, Brad, which we weren't, but that's my transition. Go to journalismjobs.com. No, wait. You can just go to johncombest.com and click on the link to journalismjobs.com. Here's the job description. I'll read just 2 sentences for you, Brad, for St. Louis Public Radio education reporter. You ready?
I can't wait.
The St. Louis area has a storied, flawed, and fractured education system that is ripe for an ambitious and enterprising journalist. And also, Brad, the most important qualification. Can you distinguish between public policy lip service and authentic attempts to change things? This is the Diane Rehm Show.
No, hold on a minute. So they're essentially in an application for a job opening. They're essentially wanting people to just cover this as an education reporter. That's what they're looking for?
Yeah, education reporter. And it reports to the arts, health, and education editor. Good news, Brad. This job is an STLPR guild-eligible position. So if you want to join the Lollipop Guild at St. Louis Public Radio, you can do it. Now, Brad, the most important thing that I want you to remember, we, quote, "We enthusiastically encourage members of groups underrepresented in public media to apply." Are you underrepresented in public media, Brad?
I'm an old white guy. You damn right I am.
Yeah, I think so. Just ask Tim Eby. Maybe he can tell you a little something. Oh, wait a minute. Don Marsh is on the other line. He said you're looking really good, Brad. I guess he went to the Pride Parade and was inspired. He saw your arm in one of those PVC pipes and decided he wanted to tell you you look good. I should have my drums here in the studio. John's just laying them down and picking them up. I'm telling you. Hey, you know what, Brad? Speaking of laying them down, that probably wasn't the only PVC that was around at the Pride Parade.
I'm not going to touch that. Okay. Okay. We talked about that. Okay. Here's something that I'm thinking to myself. Okay, and if you know what's going on in Europe, matter of fact, one of the big stories right now that's going on in Europe is essentially sort of the same thing that's happening in the United States. People are getting tired of 2 big things in Europe. You know what the 2 big things are?
Brie cheese and socialism.
No, well, they're getting tired of green economy, and they're getting tired of essentially of the immigration problem. And in some countries in Europe, the countries are radically being changed by huge amounts. As a matter of fact, remember when Germany said, "Hey, you immigrants, come on in." Now they're going, "No, we don't need you anymore."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now here's the story. Okay, you ready for this? Denmark is imposing the world's first carbon tax on. Guess what? Take a guess.
No idea.
Flatulent farm animals.
Oh, yeah. It's a popular thing, the whole methane emissions from
Denmark.
Okay, and so this is a way, of course, to discourage people from eating meat. As discussed in segment 2, we want to mock meat eaters, Brad, and burger eaters.
Right. Denmark will tax livestock farmers for the greenhouse gases emitted by their cows, sheep, and pigs from 2030, the first country in the world to do so, as it targets a major source of methane emissions, one of the most potent gases contributing to global warming. And you read more of the story. The aim is to reduce Danish greenhouse gas emissions by 70% from 1990 levels by 2030. As of 2030, Danish livestock farmers will be taxed $43 per ton of carbon dioxide equivalent to 2030. The tax will increase to $108 by 2035. However, because of an income tax reduction of 60%, the actual cost per ton will start at $17.03 and increase to $28 by 2035. Okay, I know that almost sounds humorous when you say, let's be honest with you.
Everybody loves it because it's flatulence and people are that way and they love it. But when you think about the real intention of it, which is to force any sort of meat producers out of business, it's not so funny.
Well, see, this is the interesting thing. This is the problem that Europe is having, is that essentially that's why Macron's having all these problems in France and so many of the countries in Germany. The people, in Europe, the people are saying, okay, we don't want this green crap and we're tired of the immigrants, okay? Do you notice a parallel here in the United States where people are going like, okay, Joe Biden, we don't want this green crap and we're tired of the immigrants? Isn't it the same thing?
Yeah. Yeah, it's exactly. And people are pushed to a certain level and then they revolt and then the line moves a little bit here and there, Right.
And the thing that I'm amazed by the spin meisters. Okay, yesterday Nancy Pelosi was on which one of the Sunday morning talk shows? I can't remember. She was on one of them, okay? And you know what she said about Trump?
Oh no, I don't.
She says he has dementia.
Oh, wow. And you're sure that she meant Trump? She meant Trump and not the other guy. Because remember, Trump had to be ushered off stage 1 inch at a time by his wife. Remember that? I think we all saw that video.
Read you the first paragraph of the story. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi defended President Biden on Sunday during an interview on CNN after the presidential debate and suggested former President Trump has, quote, dementia. CNN host Dana Bash, whatever her name is, asked Pelosi if there was any part of her that believed Biden should step aside. She says, my people are very much Biden, Kamala Harris, and this is an opportunity for Joe Biden to go out there and show he has the stamina. Can you believe shit? and by the way,
that's so funny.
Right, this is her quote. And by the way, while the press, and for some reason they don't, there are healthcare professionals who think that Trump has dementia, that his thoughts do not go together. Not only that, he lies. He doesn't even know the truth. So if we're just talking about mental acuity, let's be fair about it. So,
ooh, wow, boy, that is, talk about defensiveness. Now, if this were a relationship, you would be able to look at this. If this were not politics, and this happened like in an interpersonal relationship, we would say this woman is nuts and way too defensive and needs help.
Well, the interesting thing about this is I find the Babylon Bee absolutely, some of the stuff is just, it's not so great. But some of the things are absolutely, to me, hilarious. And the one I put up there, I stick these things up on my Facebook page from time to time, but people get mad at me. But the one that I put up last week it's got the screenshot. Let me see if I can find it again. It's got the screenshot of this is what I watched after the debate, where John King, who you say looks like an older
he looks like a heterosexual Anderson Cooper.
Right, that's what she said. Okay. They finish the debate, and they go to this, I said it was a panel of 10, it was a panel of 9. They're all sitting around this semicircle desk. And John King just jumps right in and says, oh, it's terrible. I'm just paraphrasing. It was terrible. I can't believe it. It was horrible. This guy's terrible. Okay, here's the Babylon Bee headline. Journalists dumbfounded as there were no previous signs of Biden declining whatsoever. Now,
boy, isn't that the truth, Brad? Like, how long? And you get credit for this, Brad, because I had only heard once or twice the phrase cheap fakes.
Right.
And you brought it up on the show one time and talked about how big of a deal it was. And the administration saying, oh, these videos of Biden looking bad, they're cheap fakes. That's not real. Like, they set the stage for themselves here.
It was KJP who said that. She says it's cheap fakes. These people have been edited. And what's interesting, all the people went back and said, okay, here's the clip. Show us where we edited and the crazy thing about it was, if there's ever a time when you have to repeat the age-old phrase, the emperor has no clothes. It's got to be now, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. And you know what? We'll never know, but all the conspiracy talk over the weekend of the fact that the Dems knew this and the Dems knew that, who knows what the truth is? But I think it was smart of the Democrats to have the debate this early, knowing that if rooting for him to do well if you're a Democrat and allaying people's concerns, but then if he performed as poorly as he did, knowing you have a little bit of flexibility to replace him.
Well, the interesting thing about this is that, and because this is what you did for a living, and I'm not saying you essentially, didn't tell the truth, but we all know that Joe Biden has been protected during the election. He sat down in his basement at his house in Delaware, and while Trump was out, speaking to thousands of people, Biden was in his basement. And once again, here's the interesting thing for me. Let's track the last 2 weeks, or coming up in 2 weeks, of Joe Biden's whereabouts. Okay, starting almost 2 weeks ago, he holed himself up in Camp David. I think he go up to Camp David like it would be 2 weeks ago tomorrow. I think it wasn't it 2 weeks ago tomorrow?
Yeah,
where
it was a long time ago. Yep.
He went to Camp David essentially to practice, for the debate. Okay, and he remained holed up in Camp David until Thursday morning when they flew from wherever to ultimately Atlanta. Okay, then he goes after the debate. And you watch Joe Biden walk him off the stage, which was very creepy. Then he goes to a Waffle House in Georgia. Then he goes to a campaign place, someplace, what is in South Carolina, where he's standing there not saying anything, and his wife is the one. Oh, Joe, you did so great. You answered all the questions. I'm going like, yes. Okay, this doesn't get any worse. And then what happens? They go back to Camp David for Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
I was surprised when they said yesterday. I heard on the radio, Brad, that he was back at Camp David, and I thought that I was like, is this some sort of a replay or something? But I guess so. As I understood it, they went back there to figure out next steps.
And the story this morning is the Biden family, and they talk about well, they huddled with Jill and Hunter. Okay, if Hunter said buy John Deere stock, I'd buy Caterpillar stock. If Hunter,
or you would get out of farm industrials
right.
altogether. That would be the better play, Brad.
If Hunter said turn left, I'd turn right. If Hunter said don't move to Missouri, I would move to Missouri. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you're saying. If he recommended a particular dispensary for weed or crack, you would probably go to a different one.
Right. Well, he wouldn't mention a dispensary. He'd mention his buddy Louie, stuff like that. Okay. So the point being is that, and he's going to listen to his grandkids. Remember this crazy thing? He talks to his grandkids every day. Okay,
literally impossible.
I heard a fascinating interview with Clay Travis last week, where Clay Travis interviewed London Roberts. You know who London Roberts is?
No, I don't.
London Roberts is the mother of the 7th grandchild of Joe Biden.
Wow, Hunter Biden's kid.
Yeah, this is Hunter Biden's kid.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating interview. And first off, everybody thinks she's like a bimbo because she was like a dancer in a club. That's where he met her. She was sharp as a tack. I was impressed with her. And she talked about how, get this, Hunter has never met his daughter face to face. Now,
can you imagine? Yeah, I don't mean to interrupt. Keep going, Brad.
How sad is that?
Can you imagine having a child and abandoning that child? I don't mean giving the child up for adoption. I mean, can you imagine having a child and abandoning your daughter or abandoning your son?
But here's where it gets interesting. She somewhat defended Hunter because, you know what Hunter does? He has Zoom calls with his daughter. I mean,
imagine.
Isn't that nice? Having a Zoom call with your daughter, never meeting your daughter face to face. And once again, Clay just asked her straight up front, what do you think of the fact that for years and years and years, the president of the United States has not recognized his 7th grandchild? And she gave a real good explanation. And she said, has the president ever talked to or met with your daughter, his 7th grandchild? No, never. I'm going like, okay, here's Mr. Family Man. Okay, once again, I'm a father of 3 boys, 3 men now. They're 3 grown men, okay? if they came to me and said, hey, Dad, I got real wild and I got this stripper pregnant and, you're going to be a grandfather. Okay, I wouldn't say, I can't believe you did that. I go, well, you know what? I get it. Once again, are you going to be a good father? Are you going to take care of that kid? Let me meet the kid sometime. Not like, well, I'm not going to talk to him. I'm not talking to that woman ever that you had sex with. I just don't get it. I mean, how can you be, typified as this great father and great grandfather? First off, I say Hunter Biden's problem is his father not intervening in his life, not his father not saying, Hunter, you need to go to detox. And the same crazy thing that's bizarre situation right now is that Jill Biden not intervening with Joe Biden saying, Joe, dude, I love you. You're my husband. You gotta step aside. You're making a fool of yourself. You may not realize it, but people are laughing at you. The last thing I want you to go down in history is be the guy that everybody made fun of. You have 50 plus years of, government service. You were the second youngest senator ever in the United States history. Joe, walk away. Be the hero, walk away. No, she's out there, and he's the smartest guy in the world. He's so smart, and he's so glib, and he's bound. The comedians are having a field day with his. They're talking about how he does backflips while he's doing trigonometry.
Yeah, and put the last part aside. As I know that we're over time here, but as you put the last part aside about what people think about Joe Biden, just imagine the weight. If someone has a conscience, imagine the weight of knowing that you abandoned your own child. Again, not put them in a in a place with adoptive parents or something like that, but imagine knowing that you've abandoned your own flesh and blood. And what kind of a person does that, Brad?
It bothers me. It bothers me. Okay, we're over time. I got to get out here because I got a place I got to be. We'll end the show by saying today is the day. And this is sort of history making because normally the Supreme Court gives all its decisions out by the end of June. Today's July 1st. They did this on purpose. The very last decision, there's a bunch of other ones as well too, is the Trump, whether he's immune from prosecution, all this kind of stuff with the immunity thing. And that's coming out it's 8 o'clock right now or thereabouts. Was it 10 o'clock our time? Isn't it 9 o'clock?
I'm not sure. I don't know exactly what time it is.
It'll be this morning. And it's going to be interesting because it's either Trump's going to come out like, well, screw those people. I'm not guilty of anything. Or it's going to be the other one where people are going to go, he's guilty of it all. Look at even the Supreme Court's not going to give him immunity. That'd be like giving a convicted murderer immunity, right? We'll just have to wait and see.
Well, just listen to 97.1 and you can listen to your daily Andrew Bailey hit, Brad. And then you can break it down for us tomorrow.
John, say goodbye.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?